Right, what I'd like to do with you today is to go through some of the key materials that you would have read in your preparation. Firstly, I just want to make sure that everybody does have my contact details. Number one, I'm going to put them on the screen again. And secondly, if as you go through the materials, if you would please just highlight any mistakes that you come across. For instance, you'll see that Chapter 2 was not correctly completed, and in fact many of the materials appear in Chapter 3, and some of Chapter 2 or Chapter 1's materials appear in Chapter 3 which do not belong there, and Dean Burns no doubt will have the people assisting him with the drafting of those notes fixing them up. Unfortunately, I'm not the author of those notes, so there's not much I could do, and I did try and point out to all of you what you needed to read, and I will recap that. It was Chapter 2 and then also Chapter 3 up to, I said page 6, you could probably take it up to page 11, and then I said from pages 16 to 32. That should give you sufficient background to what we're going to discuss today. For starters, I left off last week with a case study, and again, it's very difficult to determine how much theory do I discuss with you versus how much I do by way of case study. And there's no magic formula here. I think what is important is that I try and mix the two up as much as possible. I certainly find that learning with real case studies certainly helps my understanding, and the more case studies you do, the more you are going to become at ease with some of the concepts in the material that we're dealing with. So what I'm going to be doing, apart from the case studies that already appear in your notes, and you should, for instance, have read the CanCo study, which is a very thorough case study of a business situated in Canada, where the party was looking at various options to conduct that business from Canada into the United States of America, and various key options that were made available to the party. And I think if you go through that case study very carefully, you'll get a very good feel for what is involved in working with this material down the line. Again, you'll see that the case studies will illustrate a number of very, very important points, and that is, of course, it is impossible to embark upon any type of international tax plan if you don't at least understand some of the basics and key aspects of the domestic tax legislation that you're dealing with. So from that point of view, it's important to conduct some form of preliminary research, and fortunately, with the internet available to all of us, as well as an extensive library such as the one that we have, we're able to access a lot of that information, be very careful about its reliability. I think it's very dangerous to rely on anything that you find on the internet, even in a library, unless you are very certain that the information that you're reading is 100% up to date. And so it is quite important at some point, once you have got to a point where you've noted all the facts of your particular case that you're dealing with, and you're now looking to apply the law, that after your first draft and you've worked through that a number of times, that it then becomes appropriate for you to ask a tax specialist in the jurisdiction of the other country that you're working in, just to take a look at what you've done and to verify for you that what you have stated is correct, or that what you've relied on is correct. Of course, having to interact with a lot of professionals around the world makes the process a very expensive one, and so from that point of view, you need to try and build up a body of contacts that you are able to interact with, where in return for favors that they do for you, you will do favors for them. We, for instance, in our network, taxriskmanagement.com, have created a team of consultants worldwide who are available on an independent basis to interact with each other at relatively low cost. So at least one is able to pay these people for their time and effort to look through a set of facts and to make certain comments. And sometimes they just need to read it and point you in the right direction to make sure that what you've based your assumptions on from the tax law element is in fact correct. that you try and find that type of service. On the internet, there's an interesting site called Bidawizz, Bidawizz, and we've really followed that concept from a more tax point of view. But I must say, just in terms of testing out Bidawizz to find out the level of expertise that's available, one's also got to be careful of the questions that you ask. Again, it's just you just have that added comfort without having to incur huge expense that the law that you're basing your particular issue on has been looked at, and normally you're able to get some sort of a direction as to what the regulation or the specific section is, and again through the internet you're able to then go and look it up yourself. So it's important to have that resource available to you, and to understand that in dealing with any case study, it's not just a question of applying the principles applicable to double tax treaties. You are going to have to at least understand the basics of the country that you are, or countries that you are going to engage with. Now, I asked you to take a look at the case study of the hair products company, and I did kind of throw you all a little bit into the deep end, and I asked you to identify the key international tax trigger areas, which is quite a nebulous kind of question and very open-ended, and it was open-ended for a reason, because I wanted to really just gauge and test your ability to find your way around this relatively complex area, and how comfortable you are dealing with a set of facts like this. And of course it will become easier as we move along. And I said to you that we have a company based in the US market. The African American hair product market for this company has become fairly saturated. They don't see a tremendous amount of growth, and they've realized that their product is a product that can do exceptionally well in Africa. Well, of course, Africa has got all kinds of problems attached to it. You're not dealing with first world countries. You're not necessarily dealing with people that are very reliable. You're dealing with a jurisdiction that has many complex layers to it, and so many first world countries or developed countries will find it a lot more comfortable going into Africa through an established economy like South Africa. So, and again, the facts that I'm dealing with here are not dissimilar from a set of facts that we were asked to give advice on some time ago. So the question arises, what and how do you go about doing this?